Hey everybody, welcome to Smashing Game Time. We are three brothers that talk about gaming's back catalog of yesteryear. I'm your host, Nick. Jake and Josh are out this week. I have two special guests from MegaWobble, the developers of Lil Gator Game. I have Connor Patrick Quinn and Scott Slucher joining me today to talk about Lil Gator Game and everything they have going on with it. It's a fun conversation. Before we get into all of that, though, as usual, we are a Trident Network podcast. Go check out our siblings. They are all awesome. Listen to us wherever you get your podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, some weird ones I've probably never even heard of. Go check us out over there. We're also on YouTube, where you probably see in my face right now if you are watching. I need a haircut. It's getting a little long over here. Just a little long. Even the headbands can't hold it upright right now. Hey, fuck the algorithm. Tell a friend. That's right. Algorithms do not run it. Word of mouth is king here for the Smashing Game Time bros. So like I said, Jake and Josh are back next week. We're going to be talking more about the director's cut of Death Stranding as we get further into the game. This week, I thought it was a great opportunity to have the crew from MegaWobble over here. Again, that's Connor Patrick Quinn, the writer and art director of Lil Gator Game, and then Scott Slucher, the lead developer of Lil Gator Game. They recently had New Game Plus come out. They've also been adding a lot of content throughout the past year. Game came out back in December, and it's been a long, busy year for them. So we talk about that. We talk about, just the concept of play and what that means to them. We also get a little bit into the Unity stuff. When we recorded on Wednesday, the Unity stuff was still very, very fresh with everybody. So we get a pretty in-depth talk about that as well. Again, thanks to Connor and Scott for coming on the show. Really love talking with them. And I really love talking Legend of Zelda with Scott. I could do that for hours. Oh, and side note, I recorded this on Zoom, and it only recorded the speaker view. It didn't do my gallery view like it usually does. So it's kicking in and out, so you're missing a lot of great facial expressions from everybody. Because I made everybody laugh the entire time, and now you don't get to see it because Zoom ruined it, but whatever. But we adjusted, we accounted for it now. It's not my normal pretty view that we have for these interviews, but we'll make do with what we've got. So, hey, and without further ado, here is the full interview with Connor and Scott on Lil Gator Game. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. I am joined here today by Connor Patrick Quinn, the writer and art director of Lil Gator Game. I'm also joined by Scott Slucher, the lead developer of Lil Gator Game. Guys, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Hey.
Lil Gator Game came out back in December. You guys have been very busy since it came out. You've been adding stuff. Back in February, I believe, it was a speed run mode that you put in. I actually watched one of those. It was very dizzying. And then you recently added New Game Plus as of, I want to say it was last week. It'll be 2 weeks by the time this comes out. But are you guys still adding stuff? Are you still putting more stuff into the game?
We also added 4 new languages to the game as well with the New Game Plus update. We added French and German and Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese.
Are there more in the future that you are planning for?
For now, we just wanted to cover those big languages because that covers a lot of, pretty much all of the Western world to some extent. Like everyone seems to speak, at least understand one of those 5 languages.
Right. So I'm really glad that you guys are here because Lil Gator Game is one of my favorite games to come out in the last year. Our GOTY, which my brothers and I, we do a game of the year halfway through the year. And I really pushed for it because I knew a lot of people weren't going to be pushing for it at the end of the year. I was like, no, we have to get this in. So my question is, since release, how have things been? How's the reception been? Just overall the experience now that you guys are on the other side of it.
Well, the first thing that came to mind when you said, "Are we adding things?" is that they're like the languages and the New Game Plus mode, all that stuff, like stuff that's actually in the game. But a lot of what we've been working on has been out of the game. Like we have plushie now, and we have there were a bunch of like marketing pushes I was helping out in, and there it is. Woo! I got mine up on the shelf over there. And there's there's a lot of things that people are asking for that they will be delighted to know are coming, but that we can't say are coming until they've come. And so those things are down the line. And people really liked the game, got a lot of positive feedback on it, and it was wonderful. It was overwhelming. A lot of people said the same thing you did. We're like, we got to get this into some kind of a game of the year thing, which is wonderful, very sweet. But like, since before the game was finished, we have talked about ideas that we haven't gotten to yet. So I won't shoot myself in the foot by promising anything right now, but there's an awful lot left that we would like to do.
Yeah. We have things we've been toying with. To an extent, a lot of the post-launch work has just been like, the response was overwhelming and a little too overwhelming for me, I guess. And so a lot of it was just recuperating from launch, more or less. Like, we put out that speedrun update pretty early on, but then after that, it was a little bit of, it's been a bit of a adjustment period, I guess. Adjusting from pre-launch to post-launch has been a bit of a challenge for us in general.
It's coming up on being a year, and I don't feel like I've taken a vacation after Lil Gator Game launched. Like I just like I had some me days and I just played video games all day. But there's still stuff to do, you know. There's still stuff going on.
So you led into my next question perfectly. Since you guys put the game out and you say there's still more that you want to do, more that you want to get into, and you just mentioned having played games since the release, is there anything that you've played where you're like, man, I'd really love to get something like that into the game? Like, are you like, oh, let's get a 20-sided die roll in there, or hey, let's add a spaceship?
I mean, right off the bat, let's just tear this Band-Aid off. We released Lil Gator Game knowing that Tears of the Kingdom was going to be down the line, and Tears of the Kingdom has now come out. And there are certain things that we were toying with before Tears of the Kingdom came out that we kind of saw in Tears of the Kingdom. Obviously, you can't like what a ridiculously large game. Like, you can't walk away not being impacted by some part of that. But I think definitely that's going to have an impact. But personally, I saw things in games that I would put in other games. I saw things that would give me ideas for games down the line. Whereas things like, because what have been the big releases? Yeah, like D20, so like Baldur's Gate, not, I mean, like, in terms of being an adventure, sure, but
the dialogue system in Baldur's Gate is fantastic. But man, do we not have the budget for that at all?
Yeah, I'm sure we can tick off everybody by deciding Lil Gator's voice actor.
Yeah, right.
That's not what they sounded like.
No, that's not the voice I heard in my head.
Mm-hmm. What else has come out?
I mean,
I'll tell you something that I play. Can I just shout somebody out?
Yeah, do it. We'd love
it. There's this web comic artist name. The name of the comic is Death Bulge, and the creator released a video game called Death Bulge Battle of the Bands, which has a really unique RPG combat system. It's kind of turn-based. I'd be here for hours explaining it to you, but like, that idea of the way that he just completely changed turn-based combat and how engaging it was up until the end of the game, just playing something like that makes you kind of want to go like I want to make something for that. I want to make something like with that or about that, or like, what a cool experience I just had. So, yeah, People making games inspiring other people who make games to make games.
What about you, Scott? Any games out there that you played recently?
Well, came out this year has been a blur. Tears of the Kingdom came out, obviously. Obviously, Gator Game itself is very inspired by Breath of the Wild. So Tears of the Kingdom brings forth a bunch of different new open world concepts that I would like to shrink down into a much smaller scope thing if possible. It's hard with these. Even as a small game developer, obviously you're still playing all those big game releases that come out every year.
Mhm.
So seeing, like I said before, Baldur's Gate 3 came out, and me and my husband Robin have been playing it together, and it's it's really good. It's really impressive, all the stuff they've done with like the writing and the dialogue system as well, having to make an extremely basic dialogue system for Gator Game. I understand the complexity and just making a thing where people talk at each other feel good, and they've done really, really well with that. But you just look at all these big expensive systems and you're like, I'd like to have that.
But we are just but three people.
Yeah. It,
You
it,
actually led into like three different questions perfectly. So I'm going to take the one that will probably be harder to get back into. So you mentioned the dialogue, and these are all kids conversing with each other on a day at the park, basically. And I read that both of you have theater arts background. My question is what, and not to disparage anybody else, but like when there are kid characters and some things, you're just like, oh, is that what that person thinks a kid sounds like? How did you guys land on, just the voices of each of these kids? I mean, there are so many of them, and they each sound different, each sound unique, and they each all sound like kids, not adults writing kids. What was the writing process like for that?
The so I've talked about this on podcasts before, but I do have a theater arts background, and I've also run a lot of Dungeons and Dragons,
Mhm.
and both of those require you to make a person sound real, and there's it's kind of a study, right? Because like kids will use words that adults won't, adults will use words that kids won't,
Mm.
they'll use them in a certain order, and it's not like I didn't go interview 100 kids or anything. I just like kind of had that intuition built up already. I've had a younger brother. I've been around kids, and just do a pretty good job of putting that kind of information away. I've spent a lot of my life observing people, and so the people talk differently. I'm sort of drawing a blank, but that's basically what it boils down to. Is that if you okay, I found something that happens in a lot of video games that I see is the game designer wants to say something, and so they just say it. But a kid said, this happens in Tears of the Kingdom, actually. There's like a little kid, and he's like, hey, buddy, do you want to play spies? And you're like, yeah, kid, I want to play spies. He's like, okay, but I can only do it if you get a photograph of a very rare apple that is in the northern region of the, and they talk like every other NPC, because that's just like, it's more important to the design that in Tears of the Kingdom, like for whatever reason, when it was more important to the design of the people who were making that game that anytime someone tells you about a location, they also tell you the cardinal direction, and they also tell you if it's nearby, and you just get a lot of information. And that's not how kids sound. Kids find circuitous routes to things, or sometimes very straightforward routes to things, and sometimes they are not going to say something that you think is important. And so I can think of a couple of examples where it was about, like, I knew what I wanted to say, but the character wasn't saying it. they couldn't say it, and so I had to go back to the beginning and find another route to get there. So
Yeah.
just staying true to the voice of what a character would say. Don't let yourself get tempted to fall into your own speaking quirks or make it need to say something. It'll get there if you let it.
For me, kids, specifically with like kids in media, they're often written a very specific way where it's talking down to kids, and I think we all approached this the whole story, the whole game, like we all are like, we obviously don't want to talk down to kids. We want to treat all the characters as valid, as peers. And I've always really liked media that does that. I grew up on I was force feeding Robin some Arthur the other day, just to, just because he never grew up on that. He grew up like reading some of the books, but I wanted to show him some of the episodes, and they never, even in that, which is a PBS kids show, they don't belittle the kids. They allow them to have emotional intelligence, to strive to communicate to each other, to go through, like there's one episode that's like an exploration of trauma for all the kids.
Bluey had an episode like that recently too. Yeah,
I love Bluey. I just finished watching through the whole thing. It's wonderful.
I cry more than I don't
Absolutely.
now that I have two of my own.
Oh, that's wonderful. But yeah, Scott's nailing it. It's just like a lot of people approach child as an archetype of character, and they're just little people. They don't know to not say things sometimes, and so they say things, and that's basically the only difference. And other than that, there are cool kids, there are quiet kids, there are happy kids, there are silly kids. And so, you know,
I love that because last night I went and played some New Game Plus. I updated the game and I got in some New Game Plus, and I was speed running through, just trying to find some of the characters that like were like in my memory, but I was like, what is this? Oh, that's Duke that's squonking at me the entire time. But I love what you said, because that's Lil Gator in a nutshell. They approach. I believe the horse's name is Henry.
Martin.
Martin. I'm sorry. I don't know where Henry
the
came
horse.
But approaches Martin, and Martin is with his cool friends and is code switching at that point. And Lil Gator just doesn't have that filter. It feels weird calling him Lil Gator because I just call him Croc, ironically, in my games. But yeah, so I really do love that. Talking about play, I mean, at the core of this game is about playing. This game is about getting into any kind of trouble that you can. It's about blowing the bubblegum bubble and then hitting the ragdoll button and seeing what kind of mess you can get into. I bring that up. How do you guys define play? What, like, when someone asks you, "Hey, what is play?" What is your answer?
I could talk about it, but I think this is a Scott question because he's the reason that you get to bubblegum into the air and ragdoll down. He's the man behind all of the mechanics and the gameplay, and why does shielding, like, can you cancel this out of this? And take it away, buddy.
Such a big question. What is play? Oh man.
There's like textbook answers, like actually go ahead.
There's textbook answers, but it's not like I didn't go to school for like game design or anything. So all I know is just what my instincts tell me. And in so many games, the play is often not for fun, it's for difficulty, or it's for progressing a story, or it's for continuing to play the game in some cases. And, every game has its own sort of archetypes of enjoyment. But I wanted to approach Gator Game specifically with this like play for play's sake mindset, where I wanted to make sure that if there was something in the game that I thought would be fun to play with, I wanted to make sure that it could be in the game. Like there's no reason for there to be a ragdoll item in the game other than because I knew it would be fun and because I had fun messing around with it in the editor. And so it it, it definitely produced a bunch of bugs we had to accommodate for, but I think it's worth it in the end because of that moment that I get to see whenever I see anyone playing the game and they get the ragdoll for the first time and they activate it and they just go and you get to see the look on their face and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't serve a purpose. It's just here because it's stupid." And I think there's a space in the industry for games like that are just there for play's sake. And I think that I was motivated to pursue that because of the subject matter, because it's kids playing make believe, it's kids making their own fun. And so I wanted to make sure the game itself channeled that. I wanted to make sure the game itself gave you some tools to make your own fun out of it. And so you have like a camera and you can position yourself in silly ways and get some funny little camera angles so that you can use the ragdoll and do whatever. There's like a little paint gun and you can spray paint all over people. I think if we had more time, I might have added more silly elements like that you could have more fun with. But uh, I but that's what at least the type of play that I was trying to channel with Gator Game was this sort of naive, childlike play. Like a lot of people have said, like this transported me back to childhood in terms of like that sort of mind space. And I think a lot of that is due to Connor's excellent writing, but I have to also say that it's partially due to being able to intermingle that with the play of the game, where it's a lot of it's pointless, a lot of it has no purpose, and I think there's a beauty in that kind of game design.
I had fun
And
with it.
I love that because it's no limitations play. Like people think like you have to play within the certain set of rules, but if you remove the rules and you're just playing, like yes, you may be a king, you may be a king at the top of a castle, but the game could easily change into, oh well, hey, now we're in space and we're space cowboys running from the law. And I love that. With that in mind, was there anything during the development that was in the game and you're like, like, yeah, this is here, but this just doesn't really match what we're going for. Or this feels like more work for the player.
Cut content.
we included most of the stuff that
Yeah,
we made.
like down to the end there, while I was trying to fill out the island with NPCs, for a while I was making original models for every character, which was very contrary to Scott's original design of a much smaller scaled game where there were going to be, so many horses and so many dogs. And then I came in and said, and there's a Pomeranian, and there's a ostrich, and there's an owl, and there's a so so yeah, we used. Oh, you know what? There was something you were working on that we didn't use. Before Scott was working on a sticky hand, he was there was this ball. There was this big heavy ball, and the idea was that you would throw it and then kind of ragdoll behind it. Like you would hammer throw the ball and then Thor fly, I think. But
yeah, it was this big heavy ball with like a ton of mass. Like it was like so dense. It was like solid lead or something. I just ramped up the mass value in Unity, and it was attached to you with a rope until you would just throw it, and then when that rope got taut, it would just drag you along behind it,
Love
and
the
you
sound
could
of that.
use it to sort of get a bit of a horizontal sort of momentum. But it's a little out there, I guess, for
it was
the
basically like a sillier version of the ragdoll, and then eventually he got the grappling hook to work the way that he wanted it to. So
yeah, the sticky hand was almost cut content. The sticky hand could have easily been cut content. That one was the hardest thing to implement. The ragdoll did not like being attached to like a stretchy, springy thing, and
I thought you guys were going to tell me that, like, oh, hey, that we overscoped the thing. There was a third island. There's a third island that we had to cut the whole thing.
Like, if you look at this pixel at this angle, you can see. No, they. I guess we did a pretty dang good job of scrubbing all that out in the design process. If there was something that was going to get cut, it was when we were talking about it. And like the prologue slash
tutorial island. Oh, the nightmare.
What's that called? Flashback. The flashback area had some changes to it, but I mean, that's just the process of something being what it is. It didn't get cut or anything like that. Oh, one more thing I can think of. There's a song in that I really love to use because it's beautiful, and it's in all the trailers, and it didn't make it in. And I know where I would put it now, but we got
game's already out, so
yeah. I mean, I still wouldn't mind, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you're still contemplating, so I don't want to tell you or ask you where, because you might still be thinking about it. But
would it hurt anybody to say, Scott?
No, I mean, it's the trailer song.
Yeah, it's the trailer song, and at one point, I really wanted it to be like, so there's all sorts of stuff with like when you go in this area, the music zone changes, and there's like different variants of each song. But something that we do with the credits is the song keeps playing after the credits are done until the song is over, and then it picks up on whatever zone you're actually supposed to be hearing. So where I would put that song is right as Gator stands up and you can finally go to the big island. That's where it would go bum 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 bum, and then it would keep playing and then that would be the one time in the game it appears.
I need to go back and listen to it. I need to go back to the trailer and listen to that song, because I have a soft spot for trailer songs that don't get put in the game. I go back to like the first Titanfall, and I'm like, this is a great song. Nowhere in the game.
No, so the motifs from the song are in the game.
Yeah,
gotcha.
The ideas from the song we designed it so that it would like link in with like the playground theme as well, and the credits and the main menu music and all that stuff sort of share the same motifs. But yeah, it just didn't make it in. I agree with Connor. If we did some sort of, maybe if we release DLC sometime in the future and it coincides with like a general polish pass, it might get included there or something. But
that'd be awesome. Do a director's cut. Do a director's cut.
Yeah, we'll do a director's cut. And you know what? We're gonna put in that third island for you, Nick.
Third island, here we come. So funny, we were just talking about compromise and the things that didn't make the cut. As I was playing the game and being an older sibling, I related a lot to Lil Sis not being able to play, Lil Gator trying to compromise with her and get her playing. And, I thought a lot about, how like some friend groups have like the glue the glue of the friend group
Yeah.
that like keeps everybody. Like if Lil Gator's not there, then these friends over here aren't all getting together. And that was something I saw in I think I called her Little Sis earlier, but Big Sis, you know, working on a college project. I think it was a group project, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
There's a line in there about that. And so, you know, I'm just I was looking at it and I was kind of reading it as like the importance of the glue of the group, the importance of someone who brings everybody together. But did you guys have a different like reading on it going into it, or were you like, no, the glue, it's the glue?
Uh, I kind of did, but I have to confess that I can take credit for a lot of the side characters, but Scott already had a pretty strong vision of the core cast
Mhm.
before I joined the project, and you know, I made my little tweaks and everything. But do you want? I have something to say, Scott. Would you like to chime in at all?
Go ahead.
Okay. Um, so that is what the game is saying, basically. It's kind of saying that like Gator is showing up and getting these guys to, but one of the things, I don't know if this is something I would have wanted to put in, but something I wanted the opportunity to communicate was, you know, Avery and Jill hanging out and Martin and Avery hanging out or whatever. And the closest I got to that was the sort of cameos that each character has in the other character's main quest line. Like you
Mhm.
text Jill during Avery's, you Avery shows up during Jill's. Martin's kind of his own cameo, so it's not a perfect triangle, but yeah, I and another thing, one of the last things that I asked Scott to do, rather, I didn't do it, is the one of the last things that I asked Scott to do was make it so that when a main quest is over, certain side characters show up at the hub area because I don't want it to feel like, yes, that the thing about like a glue person, totally true in real life, but like that's one aspect of real life that I would leave out. You know, I want it to be known that these kids are running around and interacting with each other, and I want people to get excited and think about all the interesting combinations that would make. We've got some of them in the photographs that roll with the credits. If you
Mhm.
look, it's like weird combinations of characters hanging out over a certain interest. Um, so yeah, I think that's sort of what the game does. But if I had infinite time and infinite patience, I would want like Martin and Avery to talk about cartoons or something like that.
Yeah, in my head, I feel like Gator might be the person that maybe gets everyone together in that group, but I feel like maybe Martin has the most emotional intelligence of the group and is the one that actually keeps them together.
There does have to be someone who actually invites everyone out to do something.
Mm.
But actually, have you completed the game 100%, Nick?
I have.
So you
It made me cry because right around the time I finished it, someone said to me, "Hey, pick up your kid as much as you can because you never know when the last time you're going to pick them up is." And so I kind of related that to the game, like, man, you never know the last time you're going to play with this friend or that friend. So yeah, I had a whole thing with it.
that that was my like one that for those who don't know where once you complete 100% you do get a nice little treat, you get a little scene, and that scene I used as an opportunity to, well, Gator's going this way, but Jill Martin and Tom are going that way. That was my one sort of chance to be like, yeah, these guys are friends. And yeah, Gator's the one who got him out there and up and running in the first place, but they like each other too.
It's definitely something that we want to explore more of whenever we have a chance to. Is like more of an intermingling of the friend groups, like allowing the characters to have a lot more of an organic sort of friend dynamic where it's just like, oh, these two are on like vibe together. We'll just pair them off and let them just hang out over there. And then like, oh, Martin, like, in Gator Game, we have this very compartmentalized friend group system just for the sake of the main quests being organized cleanly. And that did lead to a little bit of very simplistic friend group dynamics.
I tried to
And
break it up in the playground, but there's no dialogue. So, it's just that's this is my last thought on it is in a video game, you're the main character and you talk to everybody, but you don't really see other people talking to each other. And I would like at any opportunity to get away from that because that's not how it is, and that kind of makes it feel like a game when you feel like you're the only person that has influence over anything. So that's my thoughts on that.
To be fair, I don't think Starfield has that either, you guys. So
You don't think Starfield has characters talking to each? Yeah.
No, never. No, just the ridiculous people like reading reviews and like latching their lives onto those reviews. So actually, I want to. This is a follow-up question to another question I saw in another interview that you guys did.
Oh, sure.
So the influence of Zelda is all over this thing. From the way it plays like Breath of the Wild, it looks like Wind Waker. I saw that you guys specifically mentioned Oracle of Ages and Seasons as an influence to this game. Why those Capcom Nintendo games?
well, for me personally, the Oracle games were kind of my first Zelda games. When you grow up around games, your first game is always a very nebulous idea because it's like I had access to Link to the Past in my grandma's basement.
Mhm.
I had access to Ocarina of Time emulators, but there wasn't any actual Zelda game that I like played all the way through until those Oracle games. And there's something about those Oracle games where it's really strangely open-ended, and it kind of, it's weird. There's different kinds of freedom, aren't there? Because we're in a world now with Breath of the Wild and with Tears of the Kingdom, obviously, which is like huge open-ended Zelda games. For a while, we were living in the world of linear Zelda games, and of those, there were games like, I love it to death, but Twilight Princess, where it's just like you go here and then you go here and then you go here and then you go here, and it always is just telling you where to go. With the Oracle games, it tells you the general direction that you need to go, but it then just kind of expects you to stumble your way to where you need to be. And I think that like stumbling around is something that I wanted to channel in Gator Game, because you don't often have like a forward direction when you're just like messing around as a kid.
Mhm.
And just I think that stumbling into things is pretty neat.
One thing you gotta know about Scott to add some context to this is Scott has beef with the Link's Awakening remake because it's not janky enough.
That's the Switch version, right? Or the Switch remake that they did about 5 years ago now.
Right. He's told me all about how the old Link's Awakening has a certain scruffy aspect to it that makes it endearing to him.
It feels like a weird indie game that, like, it feels like Nintendo made an indie game and people just threw ideas in a hat and then just shuffled them around and then used all the ideas in the hat to make a game out of it. And it's really endearing like that. It's like, yeah, well, sure, we'll have Goombas, we'll have Mario. Mario's in this, and you give him a mushroom, and then he's not a raccoon. It's weird, but the randomness of things that are happening makes it feel more lived in. to some extent.
That's an interesting concept that I like a lot, and it's hard to strike sometimes. But just sorry, completely off the cuff. But you know how like everything in Pokemon is about Pokemon,
Mhm.
and how everything in I don't know, like the kingdom that's getting attacked by the dark thing, everything is about the dark thing. All the merchants are selling Phoenix down. Everything is about that one crisis that's happening. And then, you know, you go into the real world, you live in the suburbs your whole life, you step into one city or like one step out of state or anything, and you're like, wow, there's a lot more going on than I ever would have realized. And capturing, like, trying to find a balance between the focus of your story and the exactly what Scott is describing, that like lived in randomness is a challenge or a thought point or something. It's important.
Right. It's like reading a friend's screenplay who is solely focused on the plot, and everyone's talking about, hey, the new kid in town, the new kid in town, or something like that. Whereas in reality, everyone would have their own weird thing going on. That weird kid might get brought up, and they're like, oh, hey, look at this thing over here.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh man, now I'm not feeling so good about my screenplay, it's good to focus on that kind of thing sometimes if that's the story you want to tell. It's just like a specific feeling that you can get. And the way to go about it is by there being a lot of stuff going on that you never talk about again.
And I say that as one of those kids that wrote that screenplay out of the gate and was like, oh yeah, I did that. So it comes from a place of love. Uh, I wasn't going to bring it up because I wanted the focus to be you guys, but the stuff going on with Unity, it's a hit for the smaller teams. Any thoughts on that, or how does that affect you guys going forward in supporting Lil Gator Game? And just, I mean, in general thoughts, because it's still so new to everybody, and it's, I mean, not to mince words, but it's a crock of shit.
For reference, the Unity announcement came out 2 days ago at the time of recording, and
businessmen not knowing what the hell they're talking about and making bold claims is not only nothing new, but seems to be an epidemic. And I don't know, we push back on it and they say, oh, and then nobody ever talks about it again.
For us personally, I don't think it's going to affect us too much. Partially because we have the pro license because we were able to afford it. So we have a higher threshold that we would have to meet. But I like more than the details of the changes they're making, more than the the fact that they're asking for more money at all or whatever. I For me personally, I'm gonna learn Unreal Engine. I've been doing things exclusively in Unity since 2013 for my whole like game development career, and this is the thing that's making me like I should probably learn Unreal Engine at this point. There's no guarantee, they could walk stuff back. Even if they do walk stuff back, I think that I speaking for myself and speaking from the general vibe that I'm getting from a whole bunch of developers out there, it's just a breach of trust, and it's hard to put your trust into a company that's going to completely change the licensing model that they're using with very little forward warning, and the fact that it's applying retroactively. Like you could have a game that was made in Unity 3 and it's been on the market for 15 years and it still applies to this thing, maybe, depending on what the lawyers say, because there's still ongoing uh, confusion, there's still ongoing debate over who this actually applies to. Unity's asserting that it applies to everyone. I don't know if that's the case, but it's hard to say because Unity themselves have been contradicting themselves with their statements. Like the statement they put out today contradicted the statement they put out yesterday, where yesterday they were saying, they said a few times in a few official statements that like, oh, streaming and WebGL, those would both count as installs for the install count figure. And then today they came out with a statement that they were like, WebGL and streaming doesn't count towards the install figure.
It's madness.
Just to clarify, just as a clarification and not as like a, hey, we changed our minds. They're just like, hey, to clarify, those don't count towards the install figure. Cool. I wonder what else will change in a few days. Don't know yet.
Well, and from the outside looking in, it's crazy to me that all these developers who have games who have come out well past 1.0. I mean, we're multiple years into them, and they're like, "Oh, hey, by the way, this applies to you too." That kind of just baffles the hell out of me.
I'm working with another team that's also being published by Playtonic, a video game called Elsie. That looks very cool and awesome, and they're like gearing up for release. They're scrambling and trying to get everything done. And I mean, even if this was nothing, to put this out on top of that, and then you actually try to look into it and understand it, and it's just like, this doesn't make any sense. This goes beyond greed. This is just silly. It's a lot to ask for people to walk with you after that.
Yeah, that's hopefully somebody near the top has a change of heart. I mean, I don't see it happening because Suits and having a heart. Didn't he wait? The guy didn't he cash in a bunch of his stocks like before the announcement? Oh my.
Yeah, he sold 2,000 stocks like 2 weeks ago.
I feel for you guys. I am sorry that is going on, and hopefully things come out on the other side better. But I mean, we're all in the world right now, so we'll see.
The free market will do a thing, probably.
The free market will free.
Excuse to broaden my horizons in terms of my skill set.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't learn any Unity. Just kidding. I know how to like go around in the engine and stuff. But
Unity saw everyone learning Unreal Engine, casting aside their old engines, and like, hey, we want you guys to go do Unreal also. So we'll get off that bummer. I did see recently that you guys announced that Lil Gator was making a cameo appearance in an upcoming game, Townseek from Whales and Games.
Yeah.
That's exciting. How did that come about?
They asked us and we said yes.
Pretty much.
It's that simple.
So let me if I can talk for a moment about the indie sphere. When like everybody makes friends at work, and you make a lot more friends from like work and school than you realize. And every indie gamer has a personal cave with a giant rock in front of it, and they can't leave. We can't leave our caves. We're not allowed. There's all manners of evil torture. I'm no, but it's there's only so many scenes and places where you can mix bags and stuff like that. And so the way to chat and to make cool stuff happen is to reach out, and that's it. And so they did, and we were so over. I was like, this is wonderful. This is so sweet. What a wonderful, nice, kind thing to do. And then they made the little gator drawing, and it looked fantastic, and that was it. That's how it works when people who are cool talk to each other about a thing.
That's how we got here today.
Yeah.
Cool people talking to one another. Scott, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
No, it was pretty much just, well, partially it was because we had a bit of a connection with, they're being published by one of the publishers we were in talks with before we uh, before we signed with Platonic, Super Rare, and so we were still on good terms with Super Rare, and they were like, "Sure, reach out to us." We were like, "Sure, why not?" And that's pretty much it. We're still on good terms with Super Rare. I mean, it was a really hard decision. We like them a lot. It was just between two very good choices.
You guys saw Platonic and you're like, they need another green mascot. They need another one.
It's imperative.
They're building the green mascot Avengers. We have to go over there.
Yeah, the green reptile mascots did just work out perfectly. For the record, that was not part of the final decision, but it was a nice little boon at the end.
They've got the green reptile market cornered. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go we're gonna go public any day now. So I know we're just about out of time here. I don't want to hold you guys much longer, but I did have one last question for you. When was the last time you played? And just in general, like, doesn't have to be a game. Could just be something like if you enjoy reading and that's like your playtime. Like, yeah, when's the last time you played?
Been playing Pokemon trading card game on the Nintendo Game Boy player.
That game was hard.
The game's I really like it. I don't know why. It's the simplest thing. It's just Gen 1 of the trading card game. It's really endearing. It's got really good music.
Yes,
I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about because I played the heck out of that game. I never finished it, but it was like the truest like trading card video game I ever played because it was at a time where the Yu-Gi-Oh games weren't really like following the set rules. So like that Pokemon game was my escape.
I really like trading card game video games specifically because you don't have to pay the money, but you get to open the packs.
Oh no.
And it's so frustrating that the current like Yu-Gi-Oh games that are being given all the money are Duel Links and Master Duel, both of which you have to pay the money to open the packs. And if you have to pay the money to open the packs, what's the point of it being virtual? Just pay the money to open the packs. Go to Walmart.
Do you guys remember when there were like they first started caring about like AR scanners? I never used it because I didn't have the proper equipment, but I had this device that would jack into a Game Boy Advance. And then you put like a leaf green cartridge in the top, and you could swipe certain cards, and stuff would happen in the game.
I remember this. I also think the Digimon trading card game got into that a little bit, but that one fell off really quick. Scott, I know what you mean by like the digital packs for real cash because I fell into a Gwent hole for a while last year. I played so much Gwent and bought so many barrels, and now I just hang my head in shame anytime I think about Gwent. But it was fun.
I'm not trying to shame anyone. I play Duel Links still.
Oh, it's a good time. It's a good time. I'm not. I don't want to shame anyone either. It's just they get you. They get you. I give my brother trouble about Genshin Impact and how they're like going to get him, but then I turn right around and buy barrels. So I'm the problem.
I'm just so basic for just like a Yu-Gi-Oh card game. Like I played the Game Boy Advance Yu-Gi-Oh games like crazy because. And it's not a complicated game. Like it was like Yu-Gi-Oh! 7 Trials to Glory. You're in a town. You can walk up to people and duel them. You duel them and you get money and you go to the card shop and you buy packs and you just cycle that. It's the simplest, most basic trading card game structure, but it's what you want out of a trading card game structure. You just want to be able to experiment with duels and then go and get more cards so you can fill out a whole archetype and make a deck out of that archetype and play with it until you unlock a new pack. and then you get a new archetype and you make a new deck out of it, and you just do that a bunch of times.
What was your
Talk about that
Scott?
for a while.
I don't want to get super personal with this private question. What was your archetype?
In the Seven Trials to Glory, after you beat the main quest, you could play like with unlocked decks, so you wouldn't have like the limited or the forbidden cards. You could just have as many of them as you wanted in your deck. So I just had a completely broken Exodia deck that had 3 pieces of every piece. It was full with Sangan and Witch of the Black Forest and everything. You could win turn 1 pretty consistently. It was ridiculous.
Scott, I could talk trading card. We could start a podcast about trading card games. That's how much I could talk with you about these. Connor, what about you? The original question.
The original. I just want to say real quick that you know, the other day or a while ago, months ago, I was playing a Pokemon game, and I was like, wow, this is just trainer battles. Like even a gym battle is just a trainer battle, and that's what this is. And so, yeah, a game really can just be have a Pokemon battle, catch Pokemon. Oh, you're in a new place. You don't really do anything in that new place except have trainer battles, catch Pokemon, go to the and that's Pokemon is beloved. It's people love it. It's fantastic. So yeah, that simple loop where a lot of other games are trying to be complicated and pepper in a bunch of other junk is very powerful. As for the last time I've played, I like drawing pictures. I played that Death Bolt video game, which was fantastic. They play now, see when it comes out. And I don't know, I could pull up my Steam page, but mostly just been hammering away on the stuff I've got to hammer away on. But it's starting to look like there's more time. I play D&D on Sundays, and I'm having a good time with that. But I really need to find a local game shop, because what I really want to do is run D&D. I'm a DM and I love running, but I don't know. It's like it's a busy season. I feel like everybody's got something going on right now, because I keep getting turned down, or somebody's got this going on, and I just got to find some people who got nothing better to do and get that ball rolling again.
September in general just seems busy for like everybody, because I had an improv show last week and maybe 5 people showed up.
Wow.
Didn't help that it was opening night for the NFL, so we kind of had stiff competition, but whatever.
It's something in the moon, something on the TV, who knows? But
100%.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay positive and keep poking people until I can get a full house again. And if that means making new friends, then I got to make new friends.
Hey, they're always out there, folks lurking every which way. Guys, this was a great talk. Before we head out, anything else you want to mention about Lil Gator Game, or where people can find it, where people can find you?
We got a plushie, we got a soundtrack, we got a Twitter, we got stuff coming out as we're working on it. So you can, if you go to our Twitter page on Twitter, we have a link tree in the bio that you can grab, and it's got I keep it updated with all the coolest stuff. So buy a Lil Gator Game, play a Lil Gator Game, tell other people about Lil Gator Game. That's what I got to say about that.
And there's some additional things coming out for Gator Game fairly soon. I think there hasn't been an official announcement yet, but I think there's already been some news articles running.
Oh yeah. Are we supposed to deny those or something? In any case, they yeah, man, they being the everyone but us really doesn't like it when you say stuff that's gonna happen. So all we can do is just be really excited about it when it is. And
I will go Google for those articles, but we will be mum until then.
Yeah. You keep your Googling fingers to yourself, listeners. We'll find out eventually.
Guys, thank you so much. Congrats on the awesome game, the year you've had with it, and we look forward to seeing what you guys do next, and hope all the best for you guys moving forward.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Nick. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Connor.
much for
Thanks,
having
Scott.
us.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.